Jazakallah. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. So today I'll be speaking through a couple topics. My journey in starting ClearStep and starting the company, what we actually do, and then some thoughts on kind of the vision and purpose in pursuing enterprises like this. I'll also give a shout out to Dr. Sahel for the very clever title for my talk. Clear Steps, Clear Step. It's a good joke. I appreciated it. But I wanted to start by highlighting a little bit of my background, and I'm only doing this largely for the sake of any high school, college kids in the room. I'm on the younger side of starting at least a business to business software kind of venture backed startup. And I wanted to give people some insight into the experiences that I think I had when I was particularly in college and right after college that really affected the trajectory here. And I think the first thing actually was starting the University of Maryland chapter of Humanity First. This was the maybe third student chapter of Humanity First, and now there are like 20 or so. Actually, I think Majib Saab's kids started one of the others at University of Michigan. And this was an incredibly important experience for me. It was a startup within a university campus of 30,000 people where you needed to market, attract, have a mission, have events, have things to do, have ways to inspire and motivate people to work on things without getting paid, just to put a line on their resume maybe. So a lot of extremely important experiences came from working with Humanity First and starting the student chapter. And for anyone who might go to University of Maryland here, this is still in operations, being run by non-MDs and mostly filled with non-MDs. So we should, if you are at University of Maryland, reach out with the current leaders there and get involved. And if you don't have one at your university, start one. It's a great experience. It's a great way to build important leadership skills. The other, I think, really foundational experience I had was doing research during undergrad. And I think that the research process, and really I was very involved throughout undergrad with the Scientists Association here. But doing research at a really qualified level is very much like building a company. You really need to understand the macro context. You really isolate a problem worth solving that has big, ramifications if you solve it, or leads to big therapeutics, et cetera. And a lot of analogies to kind of the process of starting a company. And then I started another nonprofit right after undergrad. But then being a healthcare consultant was really important as well. In fact, initially I went into healthcare consulting only because I wanted a bridge before medical school. It was a maybe 2-year thing before I was going to go to medical school. And I was constantly on the fence when I started consulting, not sure what I should do, whether I should or shouldn't. And ultimately, when I had the idea for the company, actually, is when I never thought about it again, which was a sign to me that was the way to go. But really the experiences that I had being a healthcare consultant and working in industry, working with some of the very big players at a national level on their strategies to innovate in healthcare. In particular, I was able to work with big technology and retail companies towards the end of my time in consulting back in 2018, 2017, 2018, when tech and retail were really only just seriously starting to put a lot of money into their healthcare strategies. And I got to be on some teams to help think through what should those strategies be. And ultimately, those experiences planted the seeds for what ultimately became ClearStep. We started the company. Actually, I'll kind of say one other thing. We started the company in 2018. It was me and one of my good college friends, who's also Muslim, non-MD Muslim. He studied bioengineering and went on to do his MD PhD at Northwestern. And kind of his micro experiences going as a trainee and the macro experiences I was having, looking at industry and strategy and what people are doing and where they're investing. And the combination of those experiences ultimately led to starting the company. Also, I started it right around the time of when Hazur visited in 2018. And the only reason I mentioned that is because personally, I really truly believe that the blessings of serving Jamaat and of kind of volunteering significant amounts of time towards it really pay a lot of dividends. I think a lot of that energy and effort resulted in a lot of the kind of early wins that we had in building the foundation of the company. But I kind of alluded to this, but really, you know, the foundation of a company and starting something is really getting clear on what the problem is. What is the problem that you're solving? And for us, you know, I actually found this in a couple-year-old slide for us. I thought it did a good job presenting this. But the problem for us was really just seeing like the experience when people need healthcare, when you're experiencing symptoms, when you've had a chronic thing you've been dealing with, or even it's acute and you're trying to understand whether it's ER or virtual care, whatever, the experience of finding and accessing the right care is there's a lot of friction there. And a lot of waste that happens. Patients end up spending a lot on things that they don't actually need, or they don't get care at all when they should get care. You know, providers miss opportunity to deliver the right care at the right time. That can exacerbate issues, et cetera. Payers, you know, insurance companies for unnecessary ER visits alone pay $32 billion a year. So there's a lot of kind of fat to trim here to make it a lot cleaner for people to find the right care. And that's basically what we do. We developed it, and I'll show you in a second, but basically in AI in some sense, to be able to help people find their next step for care and book appointments and get matched to what's in network and clinically relevant and available for scheduling online. That's most relevant and personalized to them. So alhamdulillah, you know, in the last couple of years, we've grown a lot. And I think we've been very capital efficient in doing so as well. We've only really raised about $5 million and are going up against competitors. You know, our 4 other real competitors have raised on the range of, you know, $35 to $180 million. And we kind of go up against them head to head all the time and have won huge accounts against them. And I think that's largely a lot of the blessings that are behind us. So, you know, we've grown a lot. We have a lot of users. There's a long way to go, though. And we consistently refine the product and kind of this journey. So let me show you a bit of what the solution is. Jawad Bhai, I think we coordinated that here at this portion. We'll show a very quick 1-minute video, if we can swap to that. It's not critical if I need to skip it, so it won't be a big deal. Let me see if I play it here. I think we won't really get the audio. Okay, I'll give it 5 more seconds. If not, we can probably skip it. Let's see. Okay, well, that's okay. So in fact, that video is like on our website, on basically the homepage of our website. But what I'll do is instead, what that video did was
your patients want answers that are fast.
So that's the audio
answers that make sense. Answers they can trust. Powered by smart care routing technology, ClearStep Virtual Triage helps patients navigate symptoms and book the right care at the right time across your network. Anyone can use ClearStep. Patients search in free text, and then we ask the most clinically relevant follow-up questions. Patients can find ClearStep through your health system's website, mobile app, or even proactive text outreach. In 1 to 2 minutes, patients are routed to the best, most convenient care options for them. They can compare choices, book online, and take action. ClearStep's virtual triage is proven to connect patients with care, generate revenue, and create efficiencies. Make healthcare easy. Guide patients with ClearStep.
I'm glad we were able to get that to work. So at least that gives kind of the high level of what the product actually is and how people interact with and use it, which is really, you know, the way we sell it is this white labeled, which basically means that it's in the brand of our customer, not our own brand, right? So even though there's maybe a powered by ClearStep little thing that you see there, it's kind of built to look like the brand of our customers and our partners. That's what white labeling means generally, if you ever hear that. But we'll step through how this actually looks like for one of our customers, Dooley. People from the Midwest or Chicago might know them. They're a big medical group out there. Hopefully this works. Hold on. There's no audio, but just a second. It should just be one arrow click starts this video, same as what we just did right there. Okay. Are you not able to do it from there? No. And I think now I lost it entirely. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. We'll keep going with it. There are some good visuals. Oh, actually, I think this slide basically shows it. I know it's a little small, but basically the way the product actually works, which was just, there's an embedded video that kind of stepped through it, is that the first step is natural language processing, right? People describe things they're experiencing, symptoms they're experiencing in free text. You can write a whole paragraph telling us what's going on. And then the second portion to this, and that's really where the true AI is really in the natural language processing that we built. The next step is knowing the questions to actually ask to be able to ultimately get to what the right care options are for people. And then the third point is, once we know how we want to recommend them, what kind of appointment they need, what kind of doctor they need to see, whether it's, a specialist or just a primary care, they need to go to the ER, then it's just about configuring that to, say, the network of our partner or our customer, which is really why we typically work with very large healthcare systems or insurance companies. It's almost like the larger the system is, the more options there are for care, the more value we can create by helping patients who are looking for care kind of cut through all of the confusion to get to what they actually need. But in these three steps, I'll kind of show you a bit more on what's under the hood and how we actually do say natural language processing. Hopefully the next embedded video works, because it's one of the cooler things of how we actually build the logic here. But the natural language processing, we essentially initially built up or got in some ways a really large bank of patients that describe their symptoms. And we manually took our team of clinicians. We have a team of about 12 clinicians that work on the team. And they literally just went through and they had to manually label, what things meant when to a discrete list of symptoms or clinical conditions. They had to map, and then we just kept training a deep learning model against the labels that we created. And then once we launched the product, we continue to get new data all the time. So we have a team that will just look at, the natural language processing itself, how it's performing, how well we're predicting on what the users are writing in. And then when we miss things, creating new classes and new training data to be able to bridge the gap. And this is interestingly for anyone who's kind of been following big headline tech news, ChatGPT has kind of been making a big storm out there, and really the impressive AI models that they've been able to create. And there's a lot of detail there, but someone was asking me, and I thought I might mention it here too, that we built our own NLP that's really designed for clinical descriptions of symptoms. But when it fails, which is only really 2 or 3% of the time, we're likely going to layer in things like ChatGPT that can work as kind of a fallback to still provide people content even when we may not know what they're talking about. Let's see here, if this doesn't work, that's okay. But one of the things that we made is an internal editor tool that we call it. We call our team our clinical intelligence team of 12 doctors or 12 clinicians, half or so are doctors. But we built an internal system that basically is designed to take a doctor's knowledge and transform it into our chat. That's the simplest way to put it. And it's a really, really cool, really all of our IP is really in this system. I wanted to, there was kind of a video recording of how it kind of works and stepping through it. But basically, you know, it's like point and click, and there's really cool interfaces. There's really cool, you know, knowledge graphs that basically get created. You can go in here and, you know, you can click on the cough protocol and you can visualize the logic that goes into when someone writes cough. What are the questions that you ask someone? And it's not a simple decision tree. It's this really cool web of kind of phrases of logic that trigger different pathways, and you can actually visualize it. So it's a really cool system that enables us to make use of a team of doctors to just, you know, 12 or so that are able to refine and build on logic that, you know, you have hundreds of thousands of patients using. It's very cool. And the key thing that actually is our biggest differentiator out in the market is the starting point for our system that we made is we partnered with a guy named Dr. Barton Schmidt, who co-authored these protocols called the Schmidt-Thompson triage protocols that are the gold standard for nurse telephone triage. You know, when you call a nurse at your doctor's office, they're not really freestyling it. They're usually using a decision tree rubric for what to tell you to standardize that advice. And through luck and really prayers and Allah Ta'ala making sure we had the right opportunities in front of us, we were able to partner with the guy that co-authored these triage protocols. We're the only ones who have done it. And whereas some of our competitors started from scratch, building a black box AI system, we took the gold standard that nurses were already using in call centers, and we transformed it. It was our starting point that we built this entire system around how do we transform this clinical content database, this clinical decision ruling that nurses use into something that then we can refine, edit upon, build upon, and deploy directly to patients. That made a huge difference because that's why we win against such better capitalized competitors, because we can go to our customers and say we're the only ones that have logic that's at least similar to what your own nurses are already using. It's kind of been a key kind of growth factor for us. But as we think about, and I wrap up here, kind of where we want to go with ClearStep, you know, of course, we want to expand our customer base. We're working with 8 or 9 big US health systems, but alhamdulillah are seeing a lot of good growth coming into this year as well, expecting kind of double our customer count by the end of March. But the goal is much bigger than that. You know, we want to be the global leader in AI systems for routing, for kind of care navigation and accessing care. And then ultimately, you know, the mission is fulfilling the rights of man and making healthcare more equitable, accessible. That's where kind of the bridge to, you know, the broader inspiration kind of comes in of the real motivation in pursuing a company or an effort like this is Hukuk al-Ibad, you know, fulfilling the rights of man. And you know, I want to call out the second quote in particular from the Quran that says, you know, say, shall we tell you of those who are the greatest losers in respect of their works, those whose labor is all lost in pursuit of the life of this world, and yet they imagine that they're doing good works. You can work so hard thinking you're doing a great job and working tirelessly, but if the goal and the incentive behind that work is the world, then it's a fruitless endeavor. And, you know, Sister Manazza in her recorded speech earlier, she kind of quoted Second Khalifa and his guidance there on how do you work really hard and both gain the world and deen. You know, Second Khalifa has, you know, spoken about this and saying that if only your intention is that you want to do the greatest work, to be able to be even just a small, tiny part of fulfilling the prophecies of Jamaat and the success that Jamaat will have, and you want to be a part of being the best at whatever, just that intention alone, plus the hard work, puts you on the opposite side of the people that Allah Ta'ala is mentioning in this world, in this verse. You know, people who work really hard, but because your goal is doing something with a purpose, hukuk al-ibad, or even just wanting to be the best to help fulfill the prophecies of Jamaat, then, you know, the fruits of our labor will become clear. And I think you know, we can already see many examples of this around us. Last slide and last thing that I'll kind of mention is a couple key ideas that I think, or pieces of advice that have helped ClearStep, I think, get to where we are today, which is, you know, try to fail fast, test ideas quickly, get data as soon as possible to know whether something's working or not. Honing communication and storytelling skills is critical. I mean, especially when you're starting a software business from scratch, you raise your first rounds of money often on nothing but a deck and a story. You know, that you need to be able to tell a compelling story. And you got to nurture your own passion and drive to achieve at these kinds of levels. And Jamaat is probably one of the best ways to be able to do that. Surrounding yourself with the best peers. I call this out too, because when I look at other people who I know my age who want to start companies, one of their biggest problems in being able to start a company is not having a good co-founder or someone that they can start it with. And if you are consciously surrounding yourself with the best people in your class and at your companies, whatever, then those are potentially people you can go do something with, because having co-founders makes things a lot easier, especially when you're younger. And then, you know, a network of high-powered mentors is, I think, critical. I wouldn't be here without, you know, 10, 15, 20 different really, really amazing mentors that have helped guide me, some of whom are here today. But I hope this was helpful for if anyone's interested in learning more or seeing those videos or whatever. My email is on the first slide, but it's Adeel@clearstep.health, or find me on LinkedIn or something, and feel free to reach out. Jazakallah.